On February 20, 1943, positioned north of Casablanca Pass in Tunisia, an extraordinary military demonstration unfolded. German tank commanders witnessed American Sherman tanks executing tactical movements that contradicted every principle outlined in Wehrmacht doctrine. Across the dusty North African landscape, 5 Sherman vehicles, positioned at distances where terrain prevented direct visual contact, converged on opposing forces with remarkable coordination. Without flag signals, illumination devices, or mounted messengers traveling between tanks, these machines functioned as a unified entity. Each crew possessed precise knowledge of their companions' positions and roles. German Panzer IV tanks, equipped with Funk 5 radio systems, encountered severe communication difficulties due to static interference overwhelming their amplitude modulation transmission methods. The 10-watt German transmitters, advanced by 1930s standards, proved inadequate for distances exceeding several hundred meters during mobile operations. Most German tank platforms contained only receiving apparatus, preventing crews from transmitting observations or requesting assistance. American forces deployed previously unknown communication technology. Frequency modulation radio systems equipped every American tank, providing crystal-stabilized transmission at 25 watts with exceptional clarity that penetrated engine noise and battlefield interference with remarkable effectiveness. 8,000 miles from Detroit's manufacturing facilities, the most consequential technological innovation of the global conflict emerged not from thicker armor or superior weaponry, but rather from invisible electromagnetic frequencies connecting every American armored crew member in ways the Wehrmacht considered impossible. This transformation commenced on July 22, 1941, when United States Armed Forces standardized radio signal corps receiver transmitter sets SCR-508, SCR-528, and SCR-538 for all medium-weight tanks. While German military forces advanced through Eastern European territories utilizing communication methods between command vehicles, American engineers at the Galvin Manufacturing Organization, subsequently recognized as Motorola, perfected frequency modulation systems that would render German platforms obsolete. The engineering department included Daniel E. Noble, who conceived the FM technology application for military armored vehicles, and Henryk Magnoski, the principal radio frequency engineer resolving the technical obstacles of integrating sophisticated electronic systems into tank environments. Their development, weighing 181 pounds, transformed all Sherman tanks into connections within the planet's inaugural battlefield communication infrastructure. The BC-604 transmission apparatus delivered 25 watts of transmission strength, 2.5 times the output of the German FUG-5 system. Operating within the 20.0 to 27.9 MHz transmission band, the apparatus furnished 10 pre-established frequency options with crystal-regulated stability. Dual BC-603 receiver units integrated into the SCR-508 permitted commanders to simultaneously observe multiple frequency bands. This capability demonstrated extraordinary significance in actual engagements. The substantial transformation originated in frequency modulation technology itself. Edwin Armstrong's FM methodology, authorized for military applications, eradicated the interference and disruption compromising amplitude modulation apparatus. Whereas German tank communication systems registered every electrical discharge as background noise, American frequency modulation equipment transmitted intelligible verbal exchange even amid artillery bombardments. November 8, 1942 marked Operation Torch's launch, introducing American armored vehicles to North African theaters. The 2nd Armored Division's platforms made landfall adjacent to Safi and Fadala, equipped with SCR-508 apparatus that would promptly exhibit superiority relative to German communication infrastructure. The Afrika Korps, despite representing the Wehrmacht's most seasoned armored contingent, operated under substantial communication restrictions. A conventional German armored platoon comprising 5 platforms incorporated merely 1 or 2 devices possessing complete FUG-5 transceiver functionality, enabling simultaneous transmission and reception. Supplementary platforms transported FUG-2 receiver-only apparatus. Personnel could perceive directives but remained incapable of reacting or relaying adversary coordinates. German armored platoons operated via rigid hierarchical organization. The platoon commander transmitted orders that subordinate platforms acknowledged via actions rather than vocalization. When commander platforms met destruction, readily distinguishable by multiple transmission antennae, entire platoons experienced coordination collapse. This vulnerability manifested catastrophic consequences against American military personnel, where each tank could assume leading functions. The February 14 to 24, 1943 Kasserine Pass engagement furnished the inaugural comprehensive manifestation of American radio superiority. Though strategically favoring German forces, the engagement demonstrated capabilities astonishing Wehrmacht analysts. Throughout the disorganized combat, distributed components of the United States 1st Armored Division preserved coordination spanning 50 miles of battlefield topography. Tank personnel who previously hadn't encountered one another arranged coordinated operations, forewarned each other of perils, and requested artillery backing via crystal-transparent frequency modulation equipment. German signals examination units monitored American transmissions and detected remarkable transparency and organizational capability. The 10th Panzer Division's examination section documented that American units preserved communication at magnitudes generating merely background noise via German apparatus. Progressively concerning was the discovery that all American tanks exhibited complete transmission competencies, not exclusively command platforms. The German FUG-5 apparatus, operating via amplitude modulation within the 27.0 to 33.3 MHz spectrum, encountered fundamental structural deficiencies. The 10-watt transmitter struggled attaining 2 to 3 kilometers under optimal circumstances, diminishing to mere hundreds of meters during mobile operations. All spark plug discharges, all electromagnetic systems, all track vibration generated interference that amplitude modulation apparatus couldn't eliminate. September 1943 witnessed American armored force arrival in Italy, where elevated terrain ought to have negated communication advantages. Conversely, frequency modulation methodology demonstrated amplified significance amid conditions nullifying German amplitude modulation apparatus functionality. The SCR-508's frequency modulation managed reflected interference occurring within mountain valleys substantially superior to amplitude modulation methodology. American tanks preserved movement synchronization across terrain where visual directives became inaccessible, and German apparatus malfunctioned completely throughout the progression toward Monte Cassino. American armored contingents demonstrated accomplishments contradicting German comprehension. Tank platoons separated by mountain ranges coordinated operations with accuracy that German military philosophy mandated, demanding visual observation. The initial armored division's post-engagement documentation depicted routine coordination at magnitudes generating mere background noise via German apparatus. June 6, 1944, witnessed Sherman tanks disembarking from amphibious transport vessels at Normandy, their SCR-508 systems sustaining liaison with maritime bombardment assistance, orchestration impossible employing German apparatus. Nevertheless, the hedgerow engagement uncovered a critical inadequacy. Tank apparatus couldn't engage with ground personnel communication apparatus operating at dissimilar frequencies. The infantry's SCR-300 functioned within 40.0 to 48.0 MHz, incompatible with tank apparatus functioning within the 20.0 to 27.9 MHz band. This communication separation demonstrated destructive in the bocage landscape, permitting German ground forces with anti-tank weaponry approaching American platforms, whilst neighboring American personnel possessed zero capability warning them. American innovations addressed this challenge expeditiously. Tank personnel affixed EE-8 field telephone apparatus in ammunition receptacles fastened to tank exteriors, wired to internal communication apparatus. Subsequent to Operation Cobra in mid-July, this uncomplicated alteration fundamentally transformed tank infantry coordination. July 25 to 30, 1944, demonstrated Operation Cobra's complete capabilities. The 2nd Armored Division, directed by Major General Edward H. Brooks, synchronized above 200 Sherman platforms through communication networks facilitating unmatched battlefield supervision. German defenders originating from the Panzer Lehr Division encountered an adversary seeming to possess extraordinary battlefield perception. American tanks reacted instantaneously to dangers transmitted by alternative units distant miles away. Artillery bombardments arranged via tank apparatus appeared within moments of objective identification. The distinction compared to German competencies manifested dramatically. Panzer Lehr, formerly Germany's foremost armored contingent, experienced communication inadequacy. Numerous platforms functioned sans communication apparatus, dependent on visual indicators amid terrain exhibiting restricted visibility. The restricted number of operational apparatus encountered interference and constrained transmission distance, preventing productive cooperation. The paradox demonstrated profound significance. Germany established pioneering accomplishments in armored warfare communication. Heinz Guderian, the architect of rapid armored assault methodology, mandated communication apparatus in platforms commencing in the 1920s. His publication, Consideration of Armored Tactics, issued in 1937, emphasized interaction as fundamental to armored military operations. Guderian established communication systems permitting tank officers orchestrating synchronized maneuvers. He recognized that quick armored movements demanded trustworthy communication. Regrettably, by 1943, German production couldn't furnish the apparatus Guderian's personal methodology necessitated. German production information revealed the catastrophe. Throughout 1943, Germany manufactured approximately 5,700 medium platforms, however, merely fewer than 2,000 Funk transmitter receivers. Numerous apparatus allocated to commander platforms and assault cannons, abandoning conventional tank contingents desperately insufficient for communication requirements. Soviet armored contingents experienced progressively severe communication deficiency. The T-34, regardless of representing the utmost generated Allied tank, customarily participated in combat deprived of any apparatus. Soviet methodology depended on banner indicators and pre-engagement organizing, with disastrous consequences confronting German forces throughout 1941. Throughout 1943, Lend-Lease assistance furnished certain relief. American apparatus, incorporating SCR-508 systems, furnished Soviet command platforms, yet approaching conflict's conclusion, merely approximately 25% of Soviet platforms included apparatus. The evaluation accentuated American accomplishment. Whereas the Soviet Federation endeavored furnishing 1/4 of their platforms with any apparatus, America accomplished 100% distribution of sophisticated frequency modulation apparatus. Motorola's Chicago manufacturing facility signified American industrial conversion at its highest capability. Preceding the conflict, the enterprise manufactured vehicle communication apparatus. Transitioning to military manufacturing necessitated complete re-engineering and resolving unprecedented specialized obstacles. All SCR-508 apparatus demanded 2,748 discrete mechanisms manufactured to demanding specifications. The BC-604 apparatus integrated 474 electrical capacitors and 385 circuit elements. Frequency oscillators needed sustaining steadiness across temperature ranges and combat disturbance. Manufacturing information demonstrated American manufacturing superiority. 1942 produced 3,800 SCR-508 apparatus. 1943 manufactured 11,400 units. 1944 generated 24,000 units. Complete military manufacturing exceeded 50,000 systems. Manufacturing achievement guaranteed all 49,324 Sherman platforms manufactured throughout conflict received sophisticated apparatus, an accomplishment no alternate nation approached. The SCR-508's advantages expanded beyond fundamental frequency modulation. Crystal-controlled frequency steadiness permitted tanks presetting apparatus stations prior to engagement and sustaining arrangement despite conflict circumstances. German FUG-5 apparatus, utilizing variable capacitor regulation, perpetually drifted beyond designated frequencies. The dual receiver arrangement permitted commanders observing their platoon communication band and organization command band concurrently. Directives descended the organizational arrangement instantaneously, whilst commanders preserved comprehension of subordinate circumstances. The BC-606 interior interaction apparatus merged effortlessly with the communication apparatus, permitting all personnel signaling the commander regarding menaces. Throat apparatus and interference-resistant receivers facilitated unmistakable communication throughout engagement. Numerous German platforms lacked interior apparatus, imposing reliance upon contact sensation or vocalization. This communication supremacy of Sherman platforms constituted a triumph in the electromagnetic dimension, demonstrating additional consequentiality than advantages in armor or armament could ever accomplish. German military personnel encountered this actuality throughout bitter engagements. At Kasserine Pass within Italian highlands, spanning France's hedgerow topography, and throughout Germany's concluding engagements, American tanks demonstrated cooperation that German military philosophy proclaimed impossible sans direct observation. The Wehrmacht developed no productive counter, recognizing they never completely comprehended the technological distinction. This invisible superiority ultimately determined warfare's result substantially more decisively compared to platforms boasting superior weaponry or armor.